Welcome to Love, Sex and Magic. In this episode, we dive deep into shadow work, what it means to really be a paradigm shifter as we transition to this new earth, and so much more. This episode is packed with juicy magic and wisdom, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen. Cool. Welcome, beautiful souls, and welcome Nyasha and Reuben to Love, Sex and Magic, also known as the Ascension Seed on Instagram. You two are just pure magic, pure love, and I'm just so grateful that you agreed to come on the show. I absolutely adore following you guys. Every time you share a video of your gifts, your magic, your songs, it's like it transports me to another place. So thank you so much for sharing your gifts, and I'm so excited to have you here for this conversation.
Thank you so much. What an honor. So amazing to feel the reflection we were saying just today. It's so common for us to see like where we need to grow and what more we need to do in our lives, and when we hear people speaking how they receive us, it's such an affirmation that, like, you know, we are enough already. So thank you so much for that reflection.
So grateful to be here, love, and you know, it's such an honor to feel how our expression has touched you so deeply. So thank you for those words, and thank you for the invitation to this space, and we're so excited to co-create with you.
Yes, well, your expression is touching many lives, and you know, I'm sure through the transmission of this episode, it's going to reach more and more souls who truly need your magic. So let's get started with like I'd love to just hear about your journey into how you're doing what you're doing now. Where did this all start for you both? How did you meet? How did you decide to co-create together? What's the story?
We actually met at a reggae dance, Channel 1 sound system in London, which we'd both been going to Channel 1 for many years. But neither of us had been in a while. And anyway, we'd been going through our journeys, separately, our spiritual journeys. And there was definitely this big acceleration for both of us. You know, I know from my own experience and then from what Reuben shared afterwards, we'd both been feeling this real quickening of like, deeper layers of healing and self-love and shadow illumination and like, you know, clearing and resolving ancestral energies from our, you know, what we inherited from our parents and the relational dynamics. And there's just loads of inner work that was really starting to manifest outwardly in the people that we were attracting and the connections we were making and the way that we were both stepping forward to serve God and to serve love, and both just feeling ready to really just like share the energy that was flowing through us, the creative energy, you know, share the love in our hearts, share the wisdom of our journeys. And I'd sort of for about a year before I met Reuben, I'd been in a process. I started my business online and started, you know, doing client work and sharing my gifts. But there was still a kind of another level of which I was just getting ready to really break through. And so right before I met Reuben, literally the month before, I'd been on the sound healing training. It was a sound healing and devotional song. It was like a retreat and 3-week training, and it was so deep, 3 weeks, like no phones and beautiful nature every day, working with sound and cacao and like singing and clearing and healing. And then also you got initiated into space holding with sound. And it was just such a beautiful time. And I feel like I jumped timelines massively to become who I needed to be in order for me and Reuben to come into alignment with meeting. And within a couple of days of getting back, I met Reuben, and I was in this amazing energy and felt so myself and so free. And he'd been, in his own way in a similar journey. And we met at Channel One, and through someone that I kind of vaguely knew a little bit in the kind of spiritual conscious community in London, and Reuben had known him for years. And we didn't even speak very much, but there was this energy. I was like, what? I just felt this. Both of us were dancing next to each other. It was like we created this vortex, and everyone was almost like spreading out around us as this space.
Wow.
We were together. We weren't like trying to connect with each other, but we were like so connected. We were both in deep spiritual devotion with the music, like feeling the spiritual aspect of reggae like in a whole new way because of our consciousness. And it was just so powerful. And afterwards we were like, whoa. And then we actually spoke for the first time. And I was thinking like, he was like, what have you been up to? And I'm like, yeah, amazing. I was like, I've just been on this like sound healing training, expecting him to be a bit like, I was like, yeah, doing like devotional songs. He's like, oh, do you mean like mantra? And I was like, yeah. I was like, what? And then he's like, yeah. I was like, what? Okay. So we exchanged numbers, and I was just coming out of this relationship that had been a karmic relationship where I'd healed and grown loads, but it had been super tumultuous. So I was kind of like, I'd broken up with that partner when I went on sound healing training, and then we temporarily got back together just for a short amount of time, just before I met Reuben, but he was away at the time. I met Reuben, and I was just thinking, this is like someone I could be friends with. Anyway, we exchanged a few messages, and I think we even mentioned collaborating like already somehow. I don't even know. When we looked at our DMs, it was already like, oh yeah, we should like co-create. And we were like, what? Like, something else was us, was calling that forward. And then we didn't speak for about 2 weeks, and then I ended it completely for good with my ex, and moved out of the house. And this is the beautiful thing actually. When I asked Reuben where he lived when we met at Channel One, he was like, oh, I live in Brooklyn, and that's where I grew up, right? And I technically just moved back there, but then I was like, I just moved back there, but then I got back from my ex. I was like, I'm meant to be moving back to Brooklyn, but now I'm not. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. I'm like, I'm meant to be moving back to Brooklyn too. And so then 2 weeks later, I messaged him. I was like, guess what? I moved back to Brooklyn. And turns out that he was literally living around the corner from me, and he'd never lived in Brooklyn.
Wow.
He was living at his dad's house, who'd lived in Brooklyn for years, and he'd never lived with his dad before at this point. So then I messaged him literally the day I moved back. I was like, I've just moved back to Brooklyn. And I was like, I've just come out of this situation that was really intense. And he was like, I really know what you mean. He's like, do you want to meet up tomorrow and we can do practice in the park? I was like, cool, yeah, let's drum and chant and clear some energy. I was like, yeah, I've really been there's a heaviness around this breakup. And he was like, yeah, I really get it. And I was like, that's interesting. And then so we went to meet up that day, Hilly Fields Park, which is my local park. And then I was not expecting what happened. We ended up spending the whole day together. We had a medicine ceremony. We were doing chakra toning. There was this incredible another vortex of energy. The consciousness between us. Whoa, it was like a glitch in the matrix. And I remember we had some plant medicine at the time. We had a bit of mushrooms, and I remember looking at Reuben when he was speaking one moment and being like, what's going on? This is I'm receiving my own energy through this person. I was like, this is it was tripping me out. I was like, what is going on here? And we couldn't leave each other, and we ended up we were talking about instant manifestation, and then someone we knew just appeared, and then we went and ended up making a music video of them and drumming and singing with these people, and the day was just flowing in this mad energy. And there was such closeness and intimacy immediately with us, but it was almost it was beyond sexual kind of tension of I think I like this person. It was just this instant recognition and love. We were holding hands, and there was this deep love and connection, but it felt so pure. It was so different to anything else that we'd experienced. And so I was almost what's happening here? And then when we said goodbye, we spent the whole day together, and then we said goodbye and he went to leave, and I remember feeling this sense of what's happening? Is he leaving? We should be together. And I was like, whoa. And I literally just broken up with my ex. And then the next day we spoke in the morning, then we were integrating more, and then it all became clear. I had to go away for a festival where I was sharing some kirtan, and so I did that space because Reuben had already realised. He said even before we met up that he already knew that there was this potential for us to be in a relationship, and I obviously was in a different headspace. But yeah, I ended up coming home early from the festival because we both got the download and realization that we were each other's twin, and that we'd met our twins. And I'd known I was on the twin flame journey, and I'd been my last relationship had been a false twin relationship, which very much prepared me 100% to be the person that could actually meet Reuben, my true twin. And Reuben was like, he didn't know so much about twin flame journeys. He's like, I don't know much about twin flames, but like, you are me. And he was the one that mentioned first. And then I was like, what? And then it's like, phew, like all the pieces of the puzzle just came flooding together. And both of us, when we were apart, were feeling this like massive expansion in our energy fields. And both of us were, you know, just through having met each other, had this huge activation, and there was so much energy flowing in. So it was like, right, it was just a lot. It was the most powerful, you know, otherworldly experience, really, you know. And then, yeah, so that was the journey. And then we were together for about a month. Yeah, like sort of just spending time together, bathing in the love. Well, actually, no, that same day we met, we said that we needed to share the energy.
Yeah, well, one of the things that, like, I mean, there's so many little moments and little events that led up to us meeting each other. Like, so many things. We could talk about this for ages. That's why Nyasha's got so much around it. But yeah, we realized this energy that we were feeling between us was so strong. Like, we literally said that this energy is not meant, it's not just for us. Like, we're not meant to just hold this in our own, like, space. It's meant to be, like, spread outwards. And when we actually met, we were both at a point in our lives. So obviously, Nyasha was coming out of a relationship, but I was at a point in my life, the first ever time, where, like, all the love I was seeking for externally, like, I started to return some of that back to myself. Like, it was at a point where I wasn't looking for any external validation or, like, sense of, like, belonging, acceptance from anyone, where I aligned with meeting Nyasha in my life, you know. So that was like a massive piece of us coming together, because it wasn't like I wasn't seeking anything. I wasn't looking for a relationship. So it's really interesting how this relationship came into my life at such a moment. But yeah, I mean, there's so much we could talk about. But yeah, going forward into our relationship, we basically spent about a month together, just getting to know each other more and more in a kind of honeymoon sort of period. Yeah, starting to do a little bit of shadow work with each other, and just getting used to each other's energy, basically. And after a month, we realized that we need to start sharing this, and we started thinking about names for, like, to a little, like, we didn't want to call it a business at the time. Actually, I remember we were saying we don't want it to be a business. It's like a practice. So it's like we still had that conditioning around the whole, like, money and spirituality sort of thing. I remember having conversations with you about that. Like, we don't want to call it like a business, but we basically set up a business, set up the Ascension Seed, basically to serve, of course, together. It was, we really knew basically the energy was not meant to be contained between us, and we had to share. And then it kind of just exploded. I mean, yeah, we just started doing as many events as we could at the time, like just little things in our house. We weren't really doing much online things at that time. Yeah, we did 2 retreats, which are amazing, which are super amazing.
Wow.
And then,
what kind of things were you guys doing on the retreats for people?
So the first retreat was called Alchemy for Ascension, Embodying Your New Earth Frequency. So that was basically about the alchemical process of birthing yourself into, being part of the movement of the new earth, and what that actually means, rather than just kind of detaching from the physical and, like, being in some space of ascension where you're, like, completely grounded.
Yes.
It was more about, like, embodying the frequency which you want to contain within your physical body to, like, assist the world moving forward. And you remember some of the other things, didn't it?
There was a lot of sound work, because obviously I'd just come out with sound training. We still use sound a lot in our work, as you can feel even from our Instagram. But yeah, we did, you know, a lot of sound journeying, sound activations. We were working a lot with the earth. I mean, a lot of meditation, like there was movement work. I mean, we always include, like, so many different things, like, you know, and our offerings are always super intuitive. So often we'll do practices and offer practices that are just completely channeled, that we haven't experienced before. And so that's so beautiful, because we get to co-create and bring through something completely new. So that was really powerful, our first retreat. And before that, we were doing, you know, cacao ceremonies with kirtan. We also did held some medicine ceremonies with mushrooms. We were doing, you know, lots of different work with sound, with intention, just embodiment, all these sorts of things. Very, very guided work. Like, we did some work as well.
Yeah, we did a few couple of things as well. We were just like, anything we can focus on. Like, yeah.
I love it. Well, the two of you are such powerful beings as individuals, and just coming together, you're just such a light, such a force to be reckoned with in this world. And I think, especially in these times where there's so much uncertainty, You know, it feels like we really have to walk towards our light and shine our light as brightly as we possibly can for this collective liberation that's happening at the moment. And you mentioned this is something that you're really passionate about, like really anchoring in the new earth and giving people real tools so that they can really embody what that means. And I really think we're all here on this planet right now for this exact reason, so we can do this. So what is this journey for you guys? Like, what does this look like when we talk about the new earth, when we talk about collective liberation? What are some of the things that people need to do to start really embodying their light more and more for this new earth that we're walking into right now?
I love that question. So, I mean, for me, like, I feel like our light naturally wants to shine, and our light is also our love. You know, it's the love in our hearts. It's the love that is our essence, right? And so, the process of shining your light more is essentially, for me, the way I understand it, of integrating your shadow and peeling back hidden layers that are holding your light in. You know, our natural state is to want to express our essence, express our energy, express our love, to offer, you know, the essence of who we are to the world in a way that uplifts the collective and raises the vibration of the planet and of anyone and anything that we are in relationship with. And so, you know, the journey starts with you always, right? Like, you can't support others, you know, but, you know, to elevate their own light and sound until you've got to a place of expressing your own. And that comes from deep inner work, self-reflection, time in silence, stillness, meditation. Like, there are so many ways to heal. And this is another thing about healing, is that our bodies naturally want to heal, and we are here to heal. We're here to integrate the fragmented aspects of self so we can return to wholeness and unity within and without, right? So, you know, with healing, I always say it's a process of allowing healing to happen by kind of getting ourselves out of the way, or putting ourselves in environments that are conducive to healing, that allow us to open to meet the parts of us that we've deemed ugly or bad, or that we're ashamed of, or that we deny or suppress or mask over. And so I feel like if you're someone that's kind of early on your journey of, you know, meeting the shadow and desiring to shine your light more, it always starts with those uncomfortable places of being willing to sit with your own darkness, and to know that there is darkness within you, and there's darkness within everyone, and that's not bad. And then for people who are, you know, further along on their journey, like, it's always just a case of deepening. You know, the more you want to expand in your light and your power, and to express, you know, more love more freely, you know, you get to choose to initiate yourself more deeply into the layers of darkness that have been more deeply buried up until this point, right? Because we kind of expand both ways. As we want to expand into our light, we expand deeper into our shadow and bring more love and more light to the deeper buried layers of shadow, so we can alchemize and then embody, you know, the wisdom, the lesson, the integration of love that happens as a result of that process. So then we can share it with others effortlessly, because it's our own experience.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think for anyone that has witnessed you both on Instagram, or anyone that's just listening to you guys share, can feel such light energy from you. And so it's really interesting to hear you talk so much about how important going into our shadows and the darkness is as well. So for anyone listening that doesn't really know how to start that kind of journey, or for anyone that's a little bit scared of, like, well, if I go into my darkness, what if I just get lost there? What advice do you have? Because you are both so light, and I think it's really important that people are hearing that it's not just all about love and light all the time. It's about going into those shadows. Like, how do people get started with that?
They have as much power as we give to them. So, like, when you acknowledge that there are things that you have that have made home within your body that are not necessarily aligned with unity consciousness, or with, like, the reality of, like, interconnectedness, it's super important to know that all things come to pass. So, like, I know that I still have, on some level, some conditioned belief that if I go into my pain, if I go into things that I've been trying to avoid, that I'm going to be stuck there forever. And that, like you're saying, I'm never going to be able to come out of that deep place. Like, you know, I used to say to Nyasha, oh, I'm going to be depressed. If I go into those deeper shadows, I'm just going to be depressed. I don't need to be depressed. Like, but really what it is like, everything will pass. Like, nothing is
Permanent.
Nothing is permanent. You know, even when things get stagnant, like, there's still energy brewing there and moving, and eventually it's going to change. Its form's going to change. So one thing I would say to people who are starting to go into the shadow is to know that everything will pass. When you're in a moment of your life where something is feeling really really restrictive, and you feel like you can't break through, and that you can't get any further than you are, all you really need to do is just hold space for yourself. It doesn't have to be so hard. Like, I was saying, like, you don't have to go in and find the exact memory where that trigger came from. You don't have to like dig deep and like get to all the finding the root cause of the thing. Like, that will come, that arises naturally. It's
if
not
it's
something,
meant to, yeah.
yeah, if it's meant to. It's not something that you force, and you don't try and like constantly excavate your shadow, because there are people as well who are addicted to shadow work because they always want to build on themselves, and they always want to be progressing, and we're naturally in a state of progression all the time. But like the balance of light and dark is like acceptance of both within yourself. So it's like acknowledging that the shadow is there, and we can never get rid of that. We can make friends with the shadow and understand how it has an effect on our lives, and and how other people receive us. Usually the best way to do shadow work is through other people. It's how other people receive you, because even if your intention is completely different to what someone else is seeing within you, the way that they're receiving you is a reflection, whether it's to do with their things or not. It's so, yeah, usually shadow work is about holding space for yourself as well, but it's also seeing how people receive you in the world, and not taking that necessarily so personally, which is a hard thing, because it's like, wait, it's about me, yes, but I think it's about holding space for yourself and finding safe spaces to do that. Usually the safest space to do it is in your own space,
or letting yourself be supported. And I think it's really important to reframe the way we think about darkness. Instead of seeing it as this bad, ugly thing that we need to be scared of, it's like, this is just a part of us that needs love, that needs awareness, it needs attention, and so it's like a wounded part of us, a part of us that's got lost, and so to be found, and it's found through our willingness to go there and to meet it with love. When we shame the shadow because we think it's bad or wrong, it's like it hides more, it hides deeper, because we're saying, I don't want to find you, because if I find you, it'll feel terrible to think that I am that, and that I'm bad and wrong because this exists within me. But we're not our shadow. It's just, it's an aspect of us that has become fragmented, that needs to be integrated back into our whole through consciousness and loving awareness, right? And so, yeah, we get to reframe the way we look at the shadow. We get to befriend the shadow. We get to take steps as well. You don't have to go into it all at once, right? When I started my journey, I remember like I had this huge, dark night of the soul, and this, big shadow awareness come through. And then it was like I was peering into the depths, and I was like, there is so much more here. I was like, there is so much more shadow here. And I remember feeling so scared, like, I don't even know when this is ever going to end. And like, whoa, like the amount of shadow that I'm sensing and feeling within my own being. I'm like, I don't know how I could get through that, and the beauty is that you don't have to go through it all at once. You just do it layer by layer. And so you're only ever meeting what you're capable of meeting. But often the fear that you're going to have to go into all of it, and you're going to meet like all the parts of you at once. But you won't if you're not ready for that. You'll only meet what you're ready for. And your capacity will continually increase, right? And as you expand in your light, you also expand in your capacity to hold more of your darkness. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of get initiated more and more. But, seek out those that have walked the path ahead of you. Let yourself be supported by people that have loving relationship to both light and darkness, and know that darkness isn't bad or wrong. The reason for being is to integrate darkness and to bring it back to love, and to send love to all parts of ourselves, So yeah, it can feel scary, it can feel confronting, and that's also okay. So it's like you don't need to feel like, yay, shadow work, because some people I love shadow, give me the shadow work, I'm here for it. But there are people that have initiated themselves through, many layers of shadow work, and so they know that they'll get through the other side, and that they'll feel, liberated and expanded and so grateful, right? If you're not yet there, if you haven't walked yourself through or been walked through a layer of shadow, it's okay for you to feel like, I don't know whether this is going to be okay. And you also can find the part of you that does know, the soul part of you deep down that knows that you came here to learn this lesson, and you're capable of meeting that darkness, and you only get what you're ready to receive, it's not just you. It's not like you're going to go into the darkness and you're going to be left into a bottomless pit. You're held by creator, by source, by the divine mind, by your own, cosmic body, by the consciousness within you. So you're only going to be able to see and integrate, another layer from the veil, that you're ready to meet. And then the process will just take its own time. So you can trust the process, trust yourself, You can trust your subconscious mind as well. You can just trust all of it, right? It's divinely orchestrated, and there's a technology happening, even if it can feel chaotic and incoherent. There's always an order, you know.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to say is that as humanity, okay, as a collective, we have a lot of darkness within us. Like there's a lot of impure energy, if you like, even if that is, you know, everything is connected in a higher realm, and in a much higher vision of existence, everything is interconnected. But there's a lot of deep things happening on Earth, and that's why shadow work is so important, because when you can learn to meet these things within yourself, you can then guide other people through those places and not be in such a state of like love and light, and, you know, anchoring in, but spiritual bypassing essentially, and anchoring in more separation a lot of the time unconsciously, like, because a lot of people come to spirituality into, like, you know, body work and to like meditation and whatever their way into that world is usually because it creates some sense of liberation. It makes them feel better about themselves, you know. It allows them to heal, it allows them to release, which is super, super important. I'm not saying those things aren't important, but what can happen a lot is the separation gap can grow, because as we get more into our light and tuning into kind of the 5D sort of consciousness, we can move ourselves further away from people who really need healing, who are deep in the shadow, or deep in the toxic parts of life, and don't see a way for them to move beyond that. So by integrating our shadow and learning to use it as a tool, and understanding what its purpose is to help us actually to move forward, to evolve, you can help other people go through that space. I always like to mention that, yeah, you know, a lot of the time we do come to these spiritual spaces to avoid deeper things within ourselves, and we often find along our journey that we can't hide from it if we really want to
yes,
the next level.
That's the journey.
Exactly, that's the journey.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love that you shared as well about the impure forces that do exist. And, you know, when you're talking about shadow work as individuals, it makes me reflect on the collective shadow that we're kind of all moving through. And it seems like we all have to collectively do this shadow work for the planet in order to move to this new paradigm that we're all speaking about. You know, there's a lot of things that have been brought to the forefront that we've been avoiding or not speaking about or not looking at for a long time. In particular, racism, you know, misogyny, like all of these kind of dark, more shadowy aspects of humanity that we've not been giving enough attention to, that have now been brought up for us to heal and look at. Can you speak into that a little bit more, like the kind of collective shadow work that we're all doing?
Yes, absolutely. So the collective and personal shadow work, like, they're very, very much interconnected, right? They are reflecting each other. So we'll notice often that the energetics that we'll be excavating, you know, within our personal world will also be mirrored in what's happening in the collective. And so, you know, as the earth ascends and the vibration of the planet elevates into a new plane, a new field of consciousness, everything within the earth's field also, you know, gets to calibrate on some level to that vibration. And so that means that there's this purification process happening, which is, you know, you can witness in the physical earth, and the way she's purging and clearing, and, you know, this, you know, recycling of energy into new forms. And there's a massive kind of collective death process happening, both energetically and physically. And in the consciousness of the collective, this looks like what you said, you know, like deeply buried collective shadows coming to light around, you know, different forms of separation, essentially, hierarchy, racial hierarchy, you know, the false hierarchy of sexes, you know, patriarchy, misogyny, like the class system, you know, major imbalances in distribution of wealth and power. All of these things that are upholding the old structure, the old way of operating in the world, all of them kind of have to come to the light, so that these different pillars of false power can be shaken up and, you know, broken down, so that something new can grow. So, you know, if this is all built into the framework of the earth, you know, in order for these things to break down, it's like the consciousness around them that is upholding the physical structure needs to break down too. So we're witnessing this process of this breakdown in consciousness as the collective consciousness, pushes to expand, and light and true love and true light come through to expand the collective consciousness, where people start to see these things. And it's like people are collectively opening their eyes to the way we've been manipulated, and the way these systems and these forms of oppression and separation have been internalized in the functioning and framework and fabric of our society, right? And then we get to look at those same things within ourselves, and we realize, oh, it's not just outside us, it's outside of us. If we can start to see it outside, then we start to see that it's made home within, right? And so it's all interconnected. If we can see it outside, then we can find it inside. And the most powerful offering we can make to the process, the collective process of purifying our consciousness into resonance with true love, is to excavate that distorted programming of the old paradigm from within us. These programs that cause us to use others, to manipulate, to believe ourselves to be above others, to separate from some and go towards others and feel superiority, or to look down on others, to project things on others based on their external appearance, their background. There are so many layers to the ways that separation and oppression have been programmed into us, and how our bodies are enacting these different forms of separation. And our bodies actually uphold, our bodies and our unconscious uphold the old paradigm in all of our relationships and all of our interactions in very subtle ways. And it's very complex because, often the ego, especially if we believe ourselves to be someone on the path of spiritual evolution and someone who's healing and is holding space for light in the world, often then we might not want to see where we actually are still complicit in upholding the very same structures that we proclaim to be about dismantling, right? And so that's where we get to really, take our work deeper by holding ourselves personally accountable for, new levels of consciousness expansion, really seeing subtle layers and subtle energetics that are misaligned with the truth of who we are. And that means letting go sometimes of identity, a sense of who we've been and who we've projected and presented ourselves to be, because we are doing this work for the collective, for true love, for the manifestation of true liberation on earth. And to embody that means to initiate ourselves into those fires of transformation that really burn us up, and realize that we're not good, we're not right, and we're not separate from those that are still deep in the shadow and do, really haven't done the work. The work is the work, and there's no point that we become above anyone else, even though our ego and our spiritual ego might sometimes project that or desire to see ourselves as having arrived somewhere, right? Because whilst the world remains as it is, and so many people are suffering, and there's so much oppression and separation in so many ways, then we can't be free. It's not possible that I can be completely liberated and everyone else remains in shadow and darkness and in chains, whether they're physical chains or energetic chains. If other people aren't free because the other is me, then I'm not free, right? So this is not to say that it's our job to liberate everyone, because everyone's on their own soul journey. But then we're here on earth together. We're bonded and connected in a unique way by the nature of us being here on earth right now, being alive. And so we are, as Earth's body, right, as alive particles of Earth's body right now, we are on one soul journey of liberation and ascension into a higher plane of consciousness. And so that's why our work is so deeply about service and serving the collective, and remembering those that get forgotten, and expanding consciousness, and also really looking at how the conscious community and the kind of field of spirituality in many ways reflects a lot of the dynamics and the power structures and the imbalances and the kind of subconscious hidden agendas and power structures, false power structures of the 3D, which everyone wants to escape. Because if you don't excavate those threads, of distorted programming from yourself, and then you're someone that's you're leading others into something that appears to be different, but in many ways remains the same, right? And so this isn't about what people say or what we present or how things look on the surface. This is a deeper level of energetic integrity that really it's only about you and God. God sees and knows where you're actually at, not where you present yourself.
Yes.
You are, right? And so it's whether or not you become who you want to be, who you say you are, that's your soul journey with God. And if you want to truly serve, the highest contribution you can make is to truly say I'm here to be used by God and to serve collective liberation and the manifestation of true love on earth and true unity. And in order for that intention to manifest, I know that I have to offer myself and my own shadow and my own behaviors and my woundings and all the parts of me. I have to offer them to be purified in those flames of transformation, and I'm willing to initiate myself through those fires.
Wow, potent, so beautiful. So what advice would you give to people who are a little more introverted and maybe don't see themselves as a leader just yet? Maybe they don't feel as comfortable expressing themselves online, putting themselves out there. Maybe they don't want to start a business or anything of the sort, but they, how can people like that start to step into the leadership in their own life? Because I know that you believe that, and I believe too, that we're all here to be leaders. We're all here to be paradigm shifters. What advice do you have for people listening? They're a little more like that.
So yes, amazing question. So yeah, I guess being a leader, like there's a lot of misconceptions of what a leader is, or the leaders that we have been conditioned to see in the world usually portray qualities which we can see as sometimes not so pure. Okay, so like we see a lot of the so-called leaders doing horrific things. We see a lot of distortion, a lot of separation manifested in the label as a leader. So one thing that has come to light for me recently through doing the course I'm doing at the moment is that like being a leader looks different to everybody, to each individual. It looks completely different. To some people, it will be speaking more outwardly online. It will be like standing up to things that they, have just been kind of allowing to pass them by before. To some people, will be speaking up in relationships. It'll be like setting boundaries of family. Like it looks different to everybody. It's not just you like standing up and in your power and like speaking to the world in this way where you process all this stuff and there's no more to like look at. Like it's about kind of what we've been speaking about already. It's about kind of owning your journey and being kind of transparent about what you have processed, so you can keep leading yourself forward and kind of guide the way for others so they can do the same for themselves. I think for people who are more kind of introverted and don't really feel like they want to start a business, I guess what it is like a fundamental question we need to ask at some point in life is like, what is it that we want from life? Because we do have more power than we are conditioned to believe. Okay, like we have a lot more power than we believe in all the decisions we make every day and the things that we give to ourselves and the way we treat our bodies. Nyasha says the way we speak to our bodies. Like there's so many little things which we can do to enhance or change or kind of co-create with the divine, if you like, to like orchestrate your life. Like it's not, whether you're alive or not, like life is happening. Like there's a force much greater than us happening all the time, but you are alive, experiencing life for a reason. So you can move forward, and the more you come into your present moment, the more you connect with your body, your environment, you can tune more into the frequency of unconditional love, which of course is an ongoing process. You can learn to lead yourself forward in your life and take some control back, take the control that has been taken away from us back, so we can take action in our life. And that looks different to everybody. Some people will be standing up in their power and wanting to start a business and and confidently moving forward in ways that they wouldn't have believed before. To some people, it's just literally speaking up to somebody who they haven't been able to speak up to for a long time, or it's having a conversation, or it's those sorts of things,
I would say for people that are introverted, that are wanting to, integrate this consciousness in their life, like it's really the choice to become the leading energy in your life consciously, because you already are. But when you add consciousness and you decide, okay, well, I want to expand in this way, what does expansion look like for you? What does expansion into love look like for you? Because that's what, this is all about, right? We're all here to expand love on earth. So how do I want to expand love in my life, in my reality, in a way that feels, comfortable for me right now, whilst also pushing my comfort zone as it relates to love, right? And so how do I allow myself to love myself more? How do I, choose to give more love to others? How do I choose to look at the world more compassionately? Like that's what it all comes down to on a fundamental level, love, right? Whether you're someone that's a conscious leader who's influencing loads of people and has a big business, making loads of money, or you're someone that's like, I don't want a business, I just want to, raise the frequency of the planet in, however I can, whilst remaining in my kind of bubble of it. It's love. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're outward or inward. It's all about love, right? We're all here to serve love. we're all here in co-creation with the divine, with the universe, with God, whatever you want to call the energy of creation. We're all here to co-create with that energy to serve love. So that's what it comes down to. So it gets to be so simple, and we don't need to think about it. It comes down to an energy. We know the feeling of true love, and if you feel like you don't know, because many of us haven't found that in our relationships, we often haven't had it from our parents and in the mirrors we've met in life. So if you want to feel true love, like meditate with, do meditations online. There's free meditations to connect to the divine, to connect to divine love. Go and be with the earth and ask to feel the love of earth. There are ways to connect to unconditional love and to know that feeling. Loving kindness meditations are an amazing way to feel the true energy of love. And so the more you commune with that energy of true unconditional love, naturally you'll start to embody that energy more and more, and you'll run it through your system, and you'll choose that energy rather than the energy of distortion or fragmentation or the absence of love. And then naturally that just starts to flow out of you. The more you fill yourself up with that love, you end up vibrating out. And that's what it all comes down to. When you strip it all back, all of the words and the consciousness and the ways that we can serve, like, that's it. Your highest offering is to give love as much as you can, and that starts with you. So love on yourself more and more every day, and that simple intention, it will show you. The way will always become clear for how you can love yourself more. If you continuously ask the divine, like, how can I love myself more, and how can I embody more love, right? And when you love yourself more, you naturally want to give it out. So what I feel would happen to an introverted person, right, who just really devoted to communing with unconditional love every single day in their current life, and to vibrating that through their field, to letting that energy come towards themselves, naturally you would start to want to serve love outwardly, and I wouldn't be surprised if eventually you start being like, I'm going to do these free meditations to spread healing love. That is what love wants to do. It wants to expand, right? So maybe, like, however that looks for you, that there will always be ways that you will naturally desire to expand love through you, the more you let yourself be filled by it.
So beautiful. Well, you two are just pure magic. I could honestly listen to you guys transmit this beautiful frequency of love all day long. So thank you so much for sharing all of what you do. There are 3 questions that I love to ask all of our guests on love, sex, and magic. The first one is, what is something that you guys are really loving right now?
Something we're really loving right now. Well, we're parents, so we are falling in love with our child more and more every day. Personally, I'm just loving watching her being evolved, to be honest, and like connecting with the world, noticing different things every time they go out for like a walk. Like, just, I mean, I'm loving going on the journey of life again, to be honest. Like, when I do get moments to just be really present with them, like, yeah, I'm falling in love with them, to be honest.
Beautiful. Yeah, for me, I mean, what am I loving right now? I love so many things. I love learning and growing. I love getting more in tune with like my body. I love my child, Shiloh. She just brings me just ultimate joy and healing, and growing as a parent to support Shiloh in the most beautiful experience ever. I'm loving how we're expanding in our business, and like, really going quantum and initiating ourselves into what's possible, so that we can show others that they can do the same. And that's so beautiful to see, especially in this last year, because we've massively expanded in our business and our abundance and our audience, and just in all ways, like, it's been a huge thing for us. And to be able to mirror and model that to others, like, we literally see it, the feedback loop in our containers, and everyone that comes into our field, they're like, you've inspired me so much to know that I can do that. And that is just the ultimate gift. So that's really nourishing me so much.
What is something that turns you on?
It's so funny, this question, because like, first of all, my mind tells me like, I straight away go to like what turns me on in like sex or something, but then what comes to mind is like what turns me on for like life, like what excites me for life. And it's a great question, and I'm racking my brain for something to think now. I feel like
what do you feel?
Yeah, like, I mean, for me, it's like when I'm in to me, like, music's coming to me now, like when I'm in a space of like, I'm like inside a song, or like inside music. I feel like I'm not like listening to a song, like I'm in the song and I can feel the song moving through me. Like, that is something that that I can honestly say that gives me a feeling of being turned on and being like charged. Like I feel the sexual creation like charge in my body. Like that's definitely something that excites me and like and wants me and it makes me want more. It makes me want more of that, definitely, for sure.
I mean, I'm just loving body work at the moment, and we've for the past year been including a lot of pleasure work in our practices and really getting people into their body through pleasure. And I literally holding space for others to do that whilst doing it myself. That is just this incredible like pleasure echo chamber. I find it so arousing. I feel so juicy like whenever I'm like holding that space, because I always let myself go deeper as I initiate others into their body and their pleasure in that way. And like it's such an amazing gift to be able to share with others, you know. So I love people with pleasure in their body.
I love these answers. And then finally, when was the last time you experienced magic?
Oh wow, I feel like we experience magic every day. Like
I think in this podcast, like last time, right? I mean, but yeah, every day. Like there's always these moments of like, you know, intense magic. Like, and I feel like some moments of magic are like subtle, like, you know, just really being present and seeing the sunrise or like, you know, the sunset, or just like seeing the beauty of a small moment, like the water rippling. Like there's so much little magic, subtle magic in if you're present enough to notice it. And then there's these moments of absolute magic where like, you know, my child will come and like wake me up in the morning and just like give me these kisses on my head, and I'm just there like, oh, like receiving. She'll give me one, I'll be like, thank you, and she'll come back and she'll just give me another kiss, and it's just the most beautiful feeling in the world. That's probably the highest magic that I experience day to day. Like those moments are just priceless.
You know, it's so interesting with this question. It's making me feel that it's reminding me that like, yeah, of course, life is magic. Like, is magic, but it's funny because within this question, it's like there's still this part of us that like, not that wants more, but it's like trying to like constantly connect to something like profound. I'm not saying that that's still what you're saying with this question, but it's making me reflect of like there's still a part of us in humanity where we're seeking more magic, and we want to see like the mad synchronicities. We want to see something completely unexplainable, like. And to me, right now I'm getting that message again of just like life is magic, and that is, to me, that's the work. Like that is the work. Like in the deep presence of life, no, we are experiencing life. Like that is incredible, and the fact that we can come out of presence with that reality is something that is to be worked on, and something to be acknowledged, because that's where all the magic comes from, doesn't it, really? When you're in presence of experience, to know what you're experiencing, and you're there in the amazement of it. Like whenever we fall back into patterns of just like of unconsciousness and kind of, you know, conditioned behavior,
like you miss the magic in those moments.
Exactly.
There's magic happening all the time, right? But like there's also a different energetic for when you set the intention to co-create magic with the divine. So for example, with this podcast, we set that intention before, and we asked for consciousness to come through and to be serving love in a pure way. And so then this transmission of energy lands through all of us in co-creation, and it's super powerful, and we feel it rippling through our bodies, and we feel the presence of a divine force that is greater than all of us, but has come through because of our shared intention. And so that's intentional magic, right? And so miracles, often people say, oh, it's a miracle, and miracles often feel a bit disconnected from our own power to intentionally create and cultivate magic. And magic is just, you know, it's in existence. It's woven within the fabric of every moment if we choose to see it. But when we want to activate, you know, a higher level of magic in our lives, that's when we get to be like, I am an anchor for magic. I'm calling in magic. I'm opening myself intentionally as a vessel for magic to flow through in co-creation with my bath, or with my shower, or with the group container I'm holding, or with my partner, or by being so present with my child. And so we can call in and amplify the magic through our intention in those moments, and that's where like the magic just gets turned up 100.
Wow. Well, you two are both pure magic for sure. Where can everyone come and connect with you more, work with you, get more of your magic in their lives?
So you can find us on Instagram at the Ascension Seed, and we're always sharing so much magic there, songs and reels and inspiration and just all the beauty. And we also share all of our offerings on there. We do a lot of online courses and just activations. Just all of our work is just super magical, and it's all co-creation, and it calls you into your multidimensional self. Our website is theascensionseed.com, and yeah, Instagram is just the best place to come vibe with us, be in our world, feel our flow, connect with us, and send us a DM if you want to connect deeper. We're here. We love to connect with you all. It's such an honor, and thank you all for listening. Those of you that have been here to receive this, we felt you with us, and thank you so much, Mel, for inviting us in. This is so beautiful.
Nyasha and Reuben, you two are just such a force. Thank you so much for spreading your light on this beautiful planet. And everyone, please go and connect with them to receive more magic in your lives. So thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love.